My name is Erin Angelo. I am the Executive Director of Parkinson's Orange County. I am the orchestrator of this event. And today I am so excited that you could be here. Thank you so much for coming. Our workshop today, of course, is called Jumpstart. It is for anybody who's been diagnosed within the 1 to 5 year range. However, if you go beyond that range, or if you just found out 1 week ago, holy moly, then we welcome you here as well. Today we have all sorts of amazing specialists. We have Miss Claire herself, who owns Rogue Physical Therapy Wellness Center. I call her the queen because she is quite literally the queen. But not to be mentioned, there's a secondary queen, Miss Lauren Simmons, the president of the board of Parkinson's County. I call her Queen Bee. They will be giving a presentation today on lifestyle, nutrition, and exercise, everything you need to know to, of course, live your best life, especially if you've been newly diagnosed with Parkinson's. And then we have Dr. Ann Lee herself. Ann Lee is in the back, she can wave. Dr. Lee is a movement disorder specialist at UC Irving, and we are so grateful for her today because, trust me, if you've got questions, symptoms, signs, things that you were wondering about, she is here to help answer them in a more community-based setting. We've got plenty of time, not only her presentation, but also question and answer time. So please, gather up your thoughts and make sure to ask her. So without further ado, Miss Claire herself. And Lauren, the Queen Bee.
I don't really need the mic, but I'll leave it there in case Lauren would like to use it. So yeah, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for coming today. My name is Claire McLean. I'm a physical therapist, and I have been specializing working with people with Parkinson's for almost 20 years now. I went to school at University of Southern California for physical therapy school, and when I was there from 2004 to 2007, a woman named Beth Fisher was doing some of the earliest research with a neurologist named Giselle Petzinger, looking at the effects of exercise, not only on the body. It was pretty well established at that point that exercise is good for our heart, our lungs, our muscles, our bones, ligaments, tendons, everything really benefits from exercise, but they were starting to look at and see how does exercise impact the brain for people with Parkinson's? And some of the earliest research was published in 2007 showing that exercise helped the brain function better. So exercise is not just for our body, exercise is really for our brain. And now over the past 20 years, there have been hundreds, if not close to 1,000 studies that have come out, specifically in people with Parkinson's, looking at all the different types of exercise that can be helpful, all the different ways that exercise can be helpful, and it really at this point is understood to be one of the most important and effective treatments for people who have Parkinson's. But there are a lot of barriers to exercise. There may be not a big history of exercise. Maybe you played sports in high school and then you worked your whole career and there wasn't a lot of time. Exercise does take time. It takes effort. Sometimes you aren't sure exactly what to do or how to do it. Maybe you have pain that limits exercise, or maybe you've noticed a change in your balance. There are a lot of things that can impact your ability to exercise, and so that's what a lot of the groups here today are here to help people implement exercise into their life so that they can benefit from it. So I went to school when this research was happening. There was also a really cool physical therapy and occupational therapy treatment that had been put together called LSVT Big at the time. That is a form of amplitude training. One of the symptoms of Parkinson's is to slow movements down. Parkinson's can also make movements smaller, and then sometimes it's hard to do the things that you need to do during the day. So amplitude training, LSVT Big, and there's also a program called Power Moves. Those are both forms of amplitude training that help you retrain your brain for bigger and better movement so that you can go where you want to go, do what you want to do, get dressed easier, move around in bed, just like basic things, basic daily things that are super important that make life better and easier when you can do those things easier. And then there's a lot of other impacts that exercise can do. So let's see, where was I going with that? So these programs came out, and right after physical therapy school, when I didn't really feel like I knew what I was doing, I learned about LSVT Big, and then the research at USC that was showing positive impacts on the brain was high-intensity aerobic exercise. People were walking or even jogging on treadmills. They had harnesses in case they needed that for safety to really be able to push it. Their heart rates were being monitored, and they were being pushed to go faster and work harder than what felt comfortable to them. And when they did that, they were using the brain activity they were measuring was with transcranial magnetic stimulation. And they showed that people with Parkinson's actually were hyper-excitable. And when they did this high-intensity exercise, that hyper-excitability came down closer to the healthy controls and how their brain activity looked. So I heard about amplitude training and high-intensity aerobic exercise. These were kind of the strongest programs at the time. Started implementing that and started seeing people get better. And I was like, I want to do this forever. This is pretty fun. I like seeing people get better while living with a condition that is expected to be progressive over time. My experience has been that people can get better and can maintain that improvement over long periods of time. After school, I did a residency program. Then I worked at a few different places around the community. I worked at Hoag Hospital for 5 years. And at Hoag Hospital, they had individual therapy, physical, occupational, and speech, which all can be beneficial for people depending on what symptoms they're experiencing and what their needs are. I enjoyed working with people one-on-one, but through the insurance-based system, it is challenging because insurance pays for a certain amount of therapy each year. It's either a number of visits or a dollar amount. Medicare, really wants someone to need therapy. If your symptoms are very mild and you're quite fit, Medicare doesn't really think that you need a lot of physical therapy. And the whole point is we're trying to work with people as early as possible to help them get the healthiest and fittest so that we can maintain that over the long period of time. So insurance-based therapy is very necessary and important and helpful, but it does not provide what the research shows is necessary to live your best life with Parkinson's. So after working at Hoag for a few years, we had some group classes there, which I really enjoyed teaching. I wanted to expand that program. That was not possible based on the bureaucracy of hospitals, space, staffing, and everything. So it was 11 years now, I think, that I left the hospital position and started my own business. We first started exercising at Mile Square Park. We then rented space at a PT clinic and then a gym. And then in 2019, we were finally ready to get our own space. We found this place, got it all fixed up, moved in November 2019, had 4 months before COVID hit, and we had to shut it down. So we were closed for most of 2020, but then we were able to get started back again in 2021, and we've been growing since then. At this point, we have over 40 classes a week. We have 8 different types of classes at 5 different levels, because people living with Parkinson's have all different experiences. And so it's important when you exercise, it's important to find the sweet spot of being challenged enough that you experience improvement, but not being challenged so much that you have an injury or it's not safe for you. So it's really important to exercise at the right level. And it's important to do the right type of exercise. There are many different types of exercise, and in general, any exercise is beneficial and will help with certain things, but certain types of exercise will help more or less with different specific things. So anything you do is better than nothing, but hopefully over time you do work with a physical or occupational therapist to identify if there's specific areas that you want to work on a little bit more, and then you kind of figure out what types of exercise are going to help you the most with those things. But hopefully after today you're just motivated to either get started if you don't currently have an exercise program, or if you do already have an exercise program, kind of evaluate it and see, am I doing things that are high intensity? Am I getting my heart rate up? Am I getting sweaty and out of breath? If not, that would be a great form of exercise to incorporate. And then really in everything you do, think about going big. Whether you're dancing, boxing, doing Tai Chi, doing the power moves or LSVT big exercises, make sure that you are stretching and moving as big as you can so you get the most out of the time that you spend exercising. Really, all of us could make tweaks to our exercise plan to make it even better. So all of that brings us here today, and I just feel super passionate about working with people. I have a group of about 10 people that I have been working with for over 10 years that I met at Hoag that are doing remarkably well, living with Parkinson's. And so, I just see on a daily basis how much of a difference it makes. And so that's what we're here to do, is to tell all of you about the things that you can do to improve your health, how you can work closely with your neurologist to get the best care possible, and hopefully we can change what it means to live with Parkinson's. So I will invite Lauren to come up with me as well. So if you want to do time, there's a number of things that you can do to improve your health. So So we're going to go through and talk about these lifestyle factors, and I'll talk a bit about the research that supports it, and then Lauren will talk about her own experience. And Lauren, how about you introduce yourself first a little bit more?
Sure. My name is Simmons, and I was diagnosed with Parkinson's 10 years ago. And when I was diagnosed, like a lot of you, I had had symptoms for several years. I had gone from doctor to doctor. I had a misdiagnosis, and I finally got diagnosed, and I was devastated. And I didn't know what the future held. And I left the office with no information other than I had Parkinson's disease, and I didn't know what to do. And I so wish on that day I knew all the information that you're going to learn this morning. Because Parkinson's is not the end of the road. Like Claire said, there are so many things you can do to live well with Parkinson's. I wish I had known it then. This is your time this morning to take notes, get all that information. I hope you're not overwhelmed with it. Absorb what you can, and you'll learn the rest in time. Ask questions, because I'm sure if you're newly diagnosed, I had a ton of questions. But I wish someone had told me that 10 years after my diagnosis, I could be standing up here during this being a cheerleader for all of you. Because you can take control of your future. And if I had known it that day of diagnosis, my outlook on my future would have been way, way different. So I'm glad you're here, and ask questions.
All right, so we do have more handouts, so if anybody doesn't have this handout yet, go ahead and raise your hand. We've got a volunteer coming around to give that handout out. So the lifestyle factors that can improve your health both in the short and long term. So the first one, we'll just kind of go in order here of what's on our sheet. The first one is sleep optimization. So there's a lot of research now. We know sleep is important. Sleep is how we get rest so that we have energy for the next day. And there's research happening now that it's not just, again, kind of how exercise, it's not just that it helps our body feel better and we get to recover overnight. There are processes happening in our brain when we sleep that cannot happen during the day because our brain is active. With Parkinson's, there are these proteins called alpha-synuclein that get misfolded. And basically, for our brain to keep functioning as well as possible, we need to get those misfolded cells out of, or misfolded proteins out of our cells. When we sleep, that is one of the times that can happen. Cells get cleaned up overnight when you're sleeping. So sleep is super important, not just to feel better the next day, but also for our long-term health. Sleep is something that typically is impacted for people with Parkinson's. Some people experience difficulty falling asleep. Some people wake up in the middle of the night and feel uncomfortable and have a hard time going back to sleep, or wake up quite early in the morning. They want to sleep till 7 and they wake up between 4 or 5 and it's hard to get back to sleep. This is something that you want to be proactive about. You want to monitor your sleep. If it's good now, great. Keep doing what you're doing. If your sleep is not good, you want to assess that. What is the challenge you're experiencing? Is it about falling asleep or waking up in the middle of the night or early in the morning? You want to talk to your neurologist about that. They may order a sleep study. This might be related to Parkinson's. There's also, of course, other things that can impact sleep, but it is super important to assess and be proactive about your sleep for your brain health over the long term. What has your experience been with sleep, Lauren?
Sleep has been a very difficult issue over probably the whole time I've had Parkinson's. But like Claire said, you really need to talk to your doctor about it. One example for me was I was waking up in the middle of the night drenched in sweat. Okay, is it menopause? Is it Parkinson's? Is it something else? I have no idea. Talked to my doctor and actually had a medication adjustment because I think my dopamine was dipping in the middle of the night and causing that to happen. So after that medication adjustment, I was sleeping better. But to be honest, over the years, we've had to tweak all sorts of things. I try to, clean sleep hygiene, get rid of the screens a couple hours before bedtime. I always try to keep the bedroom really, really cool because that helps me sleep better. My husband's cold, but I think I sleep.
He'll make it. He can add another cup.
Yeah. But definitely make it a priority because if I don't sleep well, my symptoms are worse the next day for sure. So if I sleep better, my symptoms are better.
Yeah, and so that's where, it's making a short-term difference, and then it's also definitely making a long-term difference. There's so much research now in people without a specific diagnosis or in kind of the cognitive health area, how much sleep is related to kind of outcomes over time. So you really want to be proactive. And the cool thing about these lifestyle factors is they all kind of work together synergistically. So So exercise, when you exercise during the day, that can make you more tired and help you sleep at night. And when you have a better night's sleep, then you feel like you can exercise the next day. Whereas sometimes when people don't have a good night's sleep, they think, I've got to rest the next day, and so then they sleep in really late. And it is important to get your sleep, but sometimes what can happen is that your whole sleep cycle kind of gets shifted, and then it's hard to get back on track. So, if you don't have a good night's sleep, maybe sleep in a bit longer, but then try to get up, get moving, exercise. That's going to help you reset your sleep cycle and get on a better timer. The other thing, though, is if you're retired and you maybe don't have to get up and go to work at a certain time that may or may not be the right time for you, there are specific patterns of sleep. Some people like to go to bed early and wake up early. Some people are night owls and like to sleep in, and then some of us are kind of in the middle. So you can kind of see what feels like the natural time for me to go to bed, and what is a good time for me to wake up, and organize your life around that. So don't try to fight what is your natural sleep cycle, because that makes it harder too. But some of us I would like to sleep in later than I do on a daily basis. The next one on here is exercise, and this is, in terms of research, probably the lifestyle factor that has the strongest amount of research showing how much it can help with specific symptoms, how much it can help with brain health. There are just so many ways that exercise helps at a biological level in the brain as well as in the body, and it really helps every system that exists in our bodies. So the research is really strong. I already mentioned a bit in my intro that kind of the two main types of exercise that are shown to be beneficial is high-intensity aerobic exercise, and that can be done in a lot of different ways. Walking or jogging outside, boxing classes can be high-intensity, going to a gym, using a bike or a treadmill. A lot of the research has used equipment like a bike or a treadmill because that's kind of the simplest, most straightforward way to administer that type of exercise. A class like boxing can be high-intensity, but boxing is also very cognitively demanding. What do I do now? Where do I go? What's the next exercise? What is the combination I'm doing? For some people, the more demanding it is in kind of a cognitive way or balance or mobility, it makes it harder for them to push themselves as much physically. So if you were doing, boxing is one of the most common types of workouts. Rock Steady Boxing is a wonderful nonprofit based in Indianapolis that does trainings. So we have multiple places in Orange County that do Rock Steady Boxing. I would really recommend that you wear a heart rate monitor when you're working out and see, are you getting into that aerobic zone or not? Because if not, doesn't mean boxing isn't good for you. You should still box. Just think of that as your skill-based exercise. And then ideally you would do something else where you do more consistently get your heart rate up. And these are the types of things, if you're not sure exactly what or how to do this, that's when you should work with a physical therapist one-on-one to help you identify what are the right types of exercise for you to do, what's the best thing you can do to help elevate your heart rate. So aerobic exercise is one big main type, and then the other important type of exercise is skill-based exercise. And that is anytime you're trying to do something better or challenge yourself in new and different ways. Learning new skills is very important. Amplitude training, moving bigger than what feels comfortable, is a form of skill-based training. Boxing is skilled. Dance is very skilled. Dance is another one that's highly skilled. If you're learning new steps and how to move in space, that's a highly skilled exercise that really activates the circuitry in the brain. Sometimes it's also aerobic. It depends on how you're dancing, how much you're pushing it, how you're working. So that's where it's really helpful to assess with a heart rate monitor and see what forms of exercise help you get into that aerobic zone. And then, even if not, doesn't mean it's not beneficial, but it might be more skill-based. Tai Chi is something that's very skilled, doesn't tend to be aerobic. And we want some of both types of exercise in our life. We want some aerobic exercise, we want some skill-based. In some cases, that comes together in the form of like dance or boxing or other forms of exercise where you're learning and doing new and different things, but able to get your heart rate up at the same time. So yeah, I think that's what I have to say about exercise. It's important. The other thing though, okay, one more thing. A lot of people here, I need to do high intensity exercise. If you're not doing high intensity exercise right now, you need to give yourself a period of time to work up to high intensity. In a research study called SPARKS, that is, the phase 3 of that study is happening right now, SPARKS 3. It's the first study that is actually organized in a way where they prove their hypothesis. They will be able to say that exercise slows the progression of Parkinson's. There's a lot of evidence that makes it look like that is true, but there's no one definitive study that have been large enough or looked at kind of the outcomes in the right way to be able to say that. We know that exercise helps a lot of symptoms. It looks like it could be neuroprotective, but this study is actually organized in a different way. When people come in, it's a treadmill training study. When people come in at the beginning, they are given 2 months to work up to that high intensity exercise. So if you're getting started and you want to work harder, please do, but give yourself a time frame. Here's where I'm starting. In 1 month, 2 months, 3 months is when I would like to be exercising consistently at a higher intensity level. And I'm going to start with, it might be like 5 or 10 minutes a day that you get started with. And then you're going to systematically work your way up to that higher intensity. I see a lot of people that hear how important it is and are gung-ho and start doing high intensity exercise and then do not feel well during or afterwards. And then they think, oh, I can't do this doesn't work for me. Or people say, I can't get my heart rate up. Well, it takes time. Like, our heart is actually something that needs to be trained as well. And we need to be able to tolerate that exercise in all of the systems in our body to do that high intensity exercise. So it takes time. So you want to get started where you are and then work your way up over time. And if you're having a hard time doing that or you're unsure, work with a physical therapist one-on-one to help you. The other thing about heart rate is that if you've ever monitored your heart rate for exercise, you might know that the way that we calculate percentages, what the research shows is that you want to exercise between 60 and 80% of your heart rate max. That's what the research shows is really beneficial and kind of is considered the high intensity exercise. People with Parkinson's can have autonomic symptoms. So your heart rate and blood pressure might fluctuate a bit more than they did earlier in your life, or you may notice that your heart rate is lower now. You might notice that when you try to exercise, it doesn't elevate the way that it used to. So when you're trying to do that calculation of what is 60 to 80% for you, it may not be appropriate to use an age-matched control for that estimate. You might find that if I put it into my app and the app is saying I should be able to get to 140 and that is never happening and I'm working super hard and I'm sweating out of breath. It probably means you have some autonomic symptoms that are impacting your heart's ability to respond to exercise. There's a formula that came out last year that is specific for people with Parkinson's and takes into consideration the autonomic symptoms. So you put in your age and your resting heart rate, and this formula calculates what your max heart rate should be considering that you have Parkinson's. So that might be the right formula for you to use. And again, this is a lot. So this is why we work with physical therapists, is they can help you figure this out if that's something that's hard to do on your own. So there's a lot with exercise. Getting started, anything is better than nothing. But then over time, as you get started, having guidance through group exercise classes, through working with physical therapists, is really going to help you have the best exercise program possible so that you get the most out of it. So what's your experience been with exercise, Lauren?
I learn something new every time I come to one of these. I didn't know they had this special formula for Parkinson's, so now I have to do that. Before I get diagnosed, I did not like to exercise. I did not like to sweat. I still don't like to sweat, but I exercise a lot. When I first went to the gym, I went to a Rocksteady boxing gym, had never boxed in my life, didn't want to box. I cried in the car. I took a Xanax. I'm being very honest. I went into the gym, and a year later I got certified to help coach it. It helped me so much that I just wanted everybody to know about it. It was amazing the change it made in my life. And it certainly, it was the physical part of it, but also I felt horrible when I got diagnosed. I had had these symptoms for several years building up, and I was stiff, and I didn't feel like exercising. But as I started on medication, which helped me feel better, and the more I felt better, the more I could move and could exercise more, and then it was like this cycle. The more I exercised, the better I felt, and it was just remarkable the change that it made. Do the exercise that you like to do, because if you're not going to go to the gym, it's not going to help you. And I have to say, you are in one of the best places in the country to have Parkinson's. Orange County has one of the most supportive, proactive Parkinson's communities. We have exercise classes going on all over the county. And they'll become your family. You guys will support each other. You've got each other's back. You'll laugh together, sweat together, cry together sometimes. But exercise, it has made a dramatic difference for me.
on your own is great if you're someone who has a history of exercise, but going to classes is going to help you try new things. Exercising in a group is so fun, the community that is developed. You're also going to see people and be inspired by them and hear their stories. That's going to help you work harder. So if you're someone who has either not really been an exerciser or you've done stuff on your own, I highly, highly encourage that you try some classes. It is so much fun, and I think people are just inspired by each other on a daily basis. There also are people who understand what you're going through. Like, Parkinson's is a big deal. We're not here to say, oh, you can do all these things, and it's not a big deal. It's a very big deal. And being around people who understand that is a pretty special experience, I think, right?
Yeah. When I say I'm having one of those days, you guys get it, right? You know what it's like? You just understand each other. The people, and I think the people that are living with Parkinson's day in and day out, we become the experts on Parkinson's, and we learn so much from each other, and we can inspire each other and help each other. When I went into the gym and I was 54 when I was diagnosed. I saw a 70-year-old woman, and she was just hauling on that, a heavy bag, and she was going to town, and she had had Parkinson's for probably 7 or 8 years. And she just walked up to me and she said, "You're going to be okay." And it just meant the world to me to say that. Like, she had been where I was, and she was doing great. And I'm like, if she can do it, I can do it. It just motivated me.
Yeah, it's really amazing what happens. The next one on this list is medication optimization. We're not going to go in a lot of detail about that because we have a neurologist here who's going to talk about Parkinson's and medication. But as a physical therapist, what I can tell you is being optimized in your medication really makes a big difference in terms of what you're able to do for exercise and therefore how much you can get out of exercise. Lauren already mentioned that when she was first diagnosed, she started medication, which helped her be able to move better, and then she could exercise better. And so it is really this virtuous cycle of kind of being optimized on medication and exercise together. And I've seen the interaction between exercise and medication is very interesting. I've seen a lot of people come in either not on medication or on very low doses, and they do struggle to move and push themselves. And when they make that adjustment, all of a sudden they can move better. And I've been working with a lot of people for a long time. We have people who've been on the same amount of medication now for a long time. And it's really that synergistic effect of medication and exercise together. I've also seen people who come in and they're on pretty high doses of medication, maybe experiencing side effects and challenges. When they get started with an exercise program, sometimes people are able to reduce their medication. It's not about being on the lowest amount possible. It's about being on the right medications and the right amount and the right schedule for you. And every person is different. The more that you can think about things, assess your situation, what is and isn't working for you, and bring that information to your neurologist, the more they will be able to help you. But it's very important. What else would you like? Anything else you want to share about medication optimization?
I would just say that we're all very, very different. We all have, if you asked everybody in this room with Parkinson's what kind of meds they're taking and when, it would all be different. We all have our own little cocktail of what works for us. I would say be very diligent in monitoring your symptoms and when you're taking your medication and how things are going, and bring that information into your doctor, because that's going to help your doctor to make changes that are going to benefit you.
Nutrition, also very synergistic effect with these other lifestyle factors. So what we eat really matters. When it comes to Parkinson's, there are some specific ways that what we eat matters. So one is constipation is a pretty common symptom in Parkinson's. Just like your movements might slow down, your digestive system might slow down. So it's even more important to hydrate, to eat fiber, to keep things moving through your system so that you feel as good as possible. Being constipated does not feel good. That's another thing that might make you not want to go out, to do things, to exercise, even though exercise is probably actually going to help things move through your system. But when you're constipated, it makes you not want to do things. It could be painful. It is not good. So we want to hydrate. You want to eat lots of fruits and veggies and whole foods that have fiber and keep things moving through your system. The other benefit to whole foods, plant-based foods, fruits and vegetables is all the antioxidants that come in them, and that is healthy for our brain. What the research shows, it's pretty difficult to do nutrition research at the highest level of a randomized control study where you say, okay, this group's going to eat this food and this group's going to eat that food. We all eat all all different things, it's really hard to isolate and tell people you're only allowed to eat these things and it's a completely different diet than you've ever eaten before. You can't really, and it's hard to tell people to do that, and now you have to make all this food yourself from scratch. That takes a lot of time and energy and potentially expense. There have been some nutrition studies where they provide all the food for people. That's an extremely expensive study to run. So nutrition research is difficult to do. A lot of the research in terms of giving guidance for what is beneficial for people with Parkinson's is looking at large groups of people and dietary patterns and assessing who goes on to get a diagnosis of Parkinson's. And that there's a lot of different factors that influence that, but what we eat could be one of those factors. Level of antioxidants, different vitamins, fiber, our digestive tract moving smoothly. There's a lot of things that could impact that. The Mediterranean diet has been shown to be beneficial, and for brain health, that's pretty common to hear. In addition to the Mediterranean diet, there's a diet that has been developed that looks at Mediterranean and heart health. It's called the MIND diet. That one has been shown in a couple of research studies now to be protective and also be helpful when people receive a diagnosis of Parkinson's. The difference with it compared to the Mediterranean diet is there are a few more things that are recommended to avoid, and there are things that you ideally want to eat every day. Some leafy greens, some berries are very pro-brain health. So there's lots of information out there if you want to look up MIND diet recipes, start to make some tweaks to your diet. On the back of this handout, there is some data from a researcher and naturopathic doctor named Lori Mishley. She's based up in Seattle. She's been working with people with Parkinson's for over 20 years. She has a clinical practice, and she also has a research study called MVP, which is Modifiable Variables in Parkinson's. So it's a survey that people do twice a year. She has thousands of people participating who are recently diagnosed up to having Parkinson's for decades, and looking at lifestyle factors and how is that influencing people's experience of Parkinson's over time, their experience of symptoms, their experience of progression. This chart on the back is showing the foods that are correlated with people who are doing better and experiencing a slower progression is what is in green. What is in red is correlated with people who are experiencing more symptoms or a faster progression. So you can put this on your fridge, and when it's time to go have a snack, maybe you're going to pick some fresh fruit instead of the ice cream. So you can look through this, and this matches up a lot with what I think we all know is considered to be a healthy diet. Eating more fresh fruits and vegetables, whole foods, less processed and fried foods. It's not, I don't think anything on either one of these lists should be a total shocker. On the green list, the number one is fresh vegetables. Next one down is fresh fruit, nuts and seeds, non-fried fish. Wine is on the list, so there's some good news there. There is other research, though, that says that really no alcohol is good for us, so that is something everybody can choose for themselves. Talk to your doctor, but probably not a bad idea to abstain for brain health overall. On the green list, though, is olive oil, coconut oil, and fresh herbs. On the red list is milk, cheese, yogurt, frozen vegetables, pork, chicken, plastic bottle drinks, soda, pasta, beef, canned vegetables, ice cream, fried foods, diet soda, canned fruit. So if you look at that list, some of that it kind of makes sense. Like, soda's not great for us. Processed foods, not the best for us. What you might notice is that dairy shows up on the list a few times. So dairy is a food group that has been associated in multiple studies with increased risk of receiving the diagnosis of Parkinson's. There's not a lot of research, because again, it's hard to do the research where you really control people's diets after they're diagnosed, but Dr. Mishley's data does show that increased dairy intake is correlated with increased experience of symptoms. So all these lifestyle factors that we're talking about today, and I think diet is one of the most specific ones, this is information for you to have, and you decide what kind of changes you want to make. Some people want to make big changes in their life to really try to impact the progression of Parkinson's over time. Some people say, like, ice cream is my treat that makes my life worth living, and I'm not going to give that up. So that's part of what these lifestyle factors is that you have a choice in what changes you make. And actually, having a choice and control is also something correlated with having better outcomes. So if someone tells you, you can't eat this, that doesn't usually go well. You feel restricted, you feel sad that you can't eat or do something that you love, that's not helpful. Receiving information that you then make decisions about what changes you want to make not only can be beneficial because maybe you do make some changes that line up with better daily eating habits, but also you feeling like you have autonomy and control over those choices is also very important. What has your experience been with diet? Have you made changes to your diet, Lauren?
Yeah, I made quite a few changes. But one thing we should have mentioned earlier is all these things we're talking about, we're going to send you links to everything. So like Dr. Michelin, she's got a fantastic online Parkinson's school. We will send all that information to you, so we don't have to be writing. We should have mentioned that.
Yes,
earlier.
that's very important.
I had kind of the standard American diet when I was diagnosed, which is not a good diet. I was tremor dominant, meaning tremor was my worst symptom. And the first 6 months or so of my diagnosis, my doctor tried several different medications. They'd help a little bit with my tremor, but it wouldn't go away. And he started talking about deep brain stimulation surgery. Well, I was still living in the wonderful land of denial that maybe I really don't have Parkinson's. And I thought, nobody's putting anything in my brain until I'm positive that I have Parkinson's. So I went to an integrative medicine doctor, and I wanted to be tested for Lyme disease and all these other things. And they tested me from head to toe and came to the conclusion that I have Parkinson's disease. But another thing they did is they changed my diet. When they changed my diet, which it was tough to do, my medicine started working. So I don't know, I'm not a doctor, but it's my guess that I probably was not absorbing my meds well because I was eating bad food. I was eating lots of processed food. So I had changed my diet. I eat now more fruits and vegetables than I've ever eaten in my life. I drink a ton of water. I have my ice cream on occasion. It's non-dairy. And there's some really, really good non-dairy ice cream out there. You've got more options than you've ever had before. But food can make a dramatic difference. So I know Dr. Lee can probably address that more with medication absorption and all that. But food can be make a huge difference. It did for me.
Yeah, and that was the other difference I didn't mention, that what we eat, it does, our gut health matters. So how healthy our gut is relates to our overall health. And it absolutely relates to absorbing your medication. If you're taking pills, you're swallowing them, they go to your stomach. Carbidopa-levodopa is not actually absorbed in the stomach. It has to move into your small intestines. So things need to be moving along the path, and then it needs to break down and get absorbed. So in, under ideal situations, that's exactly what happens, but there's multiple factors that could influence whether that medication is actually getting broken down and absorbed into your system. Yes.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, one of the most important things we preach, or we practice what we preach. Raise your hand if you had one of our little yogurt parfaits today. Super delicious. Raise your hand if you had a bagel with some cream cheese. Ha ha ha! None of you had dairy. So the yogurt parfait that you had, that was cashew-based yogurt from Trader Joe's. Right? And so non-dairy and an easy and delicious alternative, right? So easy as your local grocery store. The bagel with cream cheese that you had, cashew-based cream cheese from Trader Joe's. So there are a lot of options and simple switches. You don't necessarily have to give up what you love, but there are other ways to indulge in what you love and yet still make more progress towards eating a plant-based diet. So. Oh, and also a little bit of the Mediterranean diet with a little bit of romaine and, romaine and bow tie pasta. And how many of you had or sampled a little bit of our Italian breakfast sausage? Also vegan. Right, so all of these, a full vegan breakfast for you, as well as some coconut creamer. Please don't give up your coffee. Just maybe add a little non-dairy creamer to it. So yes, we practice what we preach.
Yeah, so we are living at a good time to eat more plant-based. When I was younger, my brother and sister were allergic to dairy, and so we had some of the earliest soy cheese, and it was not good. So I haven't really consumed a lot of dairy in my whole life because of my brother and sister being allergic. But what we have available now in terms of products, cheeses, ice creams, cream cheeses, creamers, there are just so many options out there that are so much better than they have ever been before. And yeah, you don't have to go to Whole Foods to get it. It is at Bonds. There's just kind of a section. Trader Joe's, Sprouts, Mother's, all have a lot of options that you can just start to check out and try. If you try something you don't like, it doesn't mean they're some things that I like and some things I don't like. I really like a brand called BioLife. They make a feta cheese that I love to put in a Greek salad. So yeah, there's a lot of options out there if you want to make some switches. All right, stress reduction. So we all know that stress is not great for us, and there's research showing that when people report high levels of stress when they're living with Parkinson's, they experience a faster progression of their symptoms. Again, it's a little bit chicken or the egg. Are you experiencing challenging symptoms and that creates stress in your life? Or is experiencing stress maybe from other things worsening your symptoms? It's very hard to tease that out and know for sure where it's coming from, but there are things that you can do. So meditation and mindfulness is one of the best things you can do. Incorporate a practice into your life. It could be as simple as taking some time where you sit quietly and focus on your breathing, and that's, you're not reading, you're not watching TV, you're actually spending some time without a lot of stimulation coming at you. You could listen to a guided meditation through an app. You could join a mindfulness-based stress reduction course where they really teach you about all the different ways that you can incorporate mindfulness into your life. But there's a lot of research out there showing that this is beneficial. They've shown changes in brain activation on functional MRIs, and there also have been studies showing that it improves people's quality of life and reduces their experience of symptoms. It's also something that can help you go to sleep at night. You know, having that nice wind-down routine as you go to bed, listening to a guided meditation is something that can really help settle you. It's like when you read a kid a book as they go to bed and it settles their system and they go to sleep. We can incorporate that same type of thing by listening to a guided meditation that helps our system calm down as we go to sleep. What do you do, Lauren, to reduce stress in your life?
I tend to be a bit of a control freak. Huh, Erin? I tend to be a high-stress person, and I have had to really work on it and learn to just give up certain things, because I know there's things that stress me out, and my symptoms are much, much worse. It's really bad, for my health anyway, to be stressed out. So there's things that I have just had to give up, and it's just one of the things I've had to do. I do much better when I'm not stressed, and for me, being not stressed is hanging out with my friends. So if I'm feeling particularly anxious or stressed, I pick up the phone, I call a friend, and we go for a walk, or we hang out. It reduces my stress level, my tremors are less, I feel better, I'm happier, and everyone else around me is happier.
Yeah, and feel like you can communicate those things to your family. If there's like certain events or things that happen that stress you out more, like holidays is a thing that we talk about a lot with our members. We have a lot of people who have always hosted holidays and they love it, but it's just more and more work. And so this is something like even my own mom, who doesn't have a diagnosis of Parkinson's, but she used to prepare almost all the food for like Thanksgiving, and now it's a potluck. We all bring food to dinner so she can pick, 2 or 3 things that she wants to make, and that's fun for her. My brother, sister, and I all bring some things as well, and we're happy to do that. But if she hadn't said anything, we just would have kept going along expecting her to make it, thinking that maybe she enjoyed that or she wanted to do it. And sometimes even as an adult child, you might feel weird asking or saying something because you don't want to take away something that is important to someone. So I think having a diagnosis like Parkinson's and many other health diagnoses hopefully inspire you to communicate more with your spouse, your friends, your family, let them know what does and doesn't work for you, so that everything can be more enjoyable as much as possible. And that goes right into the last lifestyle factor, is staying socially active. So the research shows that people with Parkinson's tend to kind of withdraw from life. And some of that might just be environmental. A lot of times people are, the average age to be diagnosed with Parkinson's is early 60s. So for some people, maybe they're retiring around that time, and work was a big social outlet for them, and now they're retired and at home. Depending on what you did for work and how much you worked, you do or don't have hobbies outside of work. You may not have the same kind of social connections as you did before. So, but the research shows that staying socially active is extremely important for our brain. And there is research across diagnoses, not just for people with Parkinson's, but people who have cognitive diagnoses like Alzheimer's. Being socially active is one of the most protective things. So you want to think about your life. And social doesn't mean that you have to be in a huge crowd of people. It's not about quantity, it's about quality. Having one or a few great friends that you can have phone calls with, get together with. If you are an extroverted person, you like being in groups, definitely do that. withdraw from situations, maybe because there is tremor and you feel a little bit uncomfortable, or things are happening at a time of day that are not the best for you anymore. So think about those things and know that if you want to maintain your brain health over the long term, being socially active is one of the best ways that you can do that. So you just mentioned immediately, if you're feeling stressed, getting together with people is one of the best things you can do.
And for me, I still have some of my friends from my pre-Parkinson's days, but I tend to hang out with other people with Parkinson's because they understand what I'm going through. To me, sometimes I feel like I'm an unreliable friend because we make plans for lunch and an hour before, it's just not going to happen. And my friends with Parkinson's, they know exactly what I'm talking about, and it's okay. We have so many programs here in Orange County. We've got social programs. You can be social at Rock Steady, the gym. That can be your social outlet. But definitely be careful about if you see yourself pulling back and staying home. You can slide real fast and get isolated very quickly. So if you see that happening, or if you see that happening in your loved one, encourage them to get out, get off the couch, go have lunch with friends or something like that, because after you do it, you're going to feel better.
Yeah. All right, so we still have a little bit of time, a few minutes. So we basically have a table up front with some of our favorite resources that you can come and take a picture of. We will also send out a list of these in the follow-up email. But one is, thinking about if you are going to make some changes to your diet, there's a lot that you can find online for free, but some people, we really like cookbooks. They're beautiful. We like to look at pictures. We like to have something physical. This one is the Blue Zones Kitchen. Has anyone heard of the Blue Zones before? So these are places in the world that have been identified to have the longest longevity for humans. So people live longer and in many cases are healthier and active throughout that lifespan up until, they're in their over 100. So they've done research to go into these areas that are identified as blue zones that have highest longevity, and they've looked to see what is different about these communities than how the rest of us are living. In the U.S., Loma Linda is actually a blue zone. It's the only one in the U.S. And then there's one in Japan and in Costa Rica. So they've identified patterns that are consistent. People tend to be active. They tend to be very social. There's a lot of intergenerational connections. And the dietary pattern is more plant-forward. So they aren't vegan 100%, but they do eat more fruits and vegetables and whole grains on a regular basis. So this cookbook is one option where you can get some ideas. Legumes, beans, nuts, seeds, all those things we mentioned on the green side of the list are all the things that match up with blue zones. This book is written by Tracy Pollan, who is married to Michael J. Fox. Tracy Pollan's brother is Michael Pollan, who is a longtime writer about diet and nutrition. And mostly plants is basically what he has recommended, that you don't have to get super complex, but on a daily basis and on looking at your plate, you want it to be mostly plants. So this cookbook was written by Michael J. Fox's wife, and also has some really great recipes in here as well. So you can take pictures of those. You want to share some?
Living Well, Running Hard. This man, John Ball, lives in Orange County. He was at the World Parkinson Congress. He has had Parkinson's for more than 50 years. It is possible. He is living well with Parkinson's. He's in his 80s now, right? Ran marathons for years. Absolutely remarkable guy. Very inspiring story. So if you're looking for some inspiration, it's a great book.
This book, the New Parkinson's Disease Treatment Book, is not new anymore. It was published in 2016. I'm hoping Eric Alstog, the neurologist who wrote it, does one more edition before he retires. But this book, even though it has been out for 10 years, is still one of the best books for you to read and understand Parkinson's and understand medications. He doesn't have every single medication because new ones have come out in the past 10 years. But understanding how medication like carbidopa, levodopa, which is a very common one to take, how it works in your system, what it can help, what it might not help, and how do you know if you're optimized? So we've been talking about being optimized in your medication. How would you know what that means? Working with your neurologist is one place. Telling them what you experience is one way they can work with you to help you. But my experience working with people with Parkinson's over the past 20 years is that the more that they understand about their own symptoms, how medication works for them, what it helps with, what it doesn't help with, how long it lasts, the more they understand that, the better they're able to work with their neurologist and the better they do over the long term. Because medication is a key treatment for the vast majority of people who have Parkinson's. And this book, he just writes in a very clear way. He explains complex topics. This isn't the book like Parkinson's for Dummies. This is Parkinson's for Smarties. But he does write it in a way that you understand what he is explaining. It's not a novel. You don't read the whole thing. You look and see what chapters are interesting and relevant for you. Read those chapters. One is just getting started on carbidopa-levodopa treatment, and these are the types of things that I wish everyone would know. But it is hard in a visit with a neurologist, even one that lasts an hour, which is not most visits. It's not really possible for them to tell you everything that is explained in this book. And sometimes you might actually need to read it multiple times to really absorb that information. So this book is a really excellent reference. I highly recommend purchasing this and having it as a resource.
I go back to that one on a regular basis because Parkinson's changes over the years, so I will go back and look at a different chapter. The Davis Finney Foundation. Davis Finney was an Olympic cyclist and he has Parkinson's. And his foundation puts out this manual and this manual for care partners. They are free. You can order them. We'll send you the link to them. And there's just wonderful information in here, inspiring stories. There's forms you can fill out, what questions should you be asking your doctors, all sorts of information. And great. This one is newer. They didn't always have this with their care partners also. That's a great resource to have, and it's free.
This book was pretty recently published, and it's really focusing on how to reduce symptoms through exercise. So it's a really detailed book talking about the exercise research. A lot of people get inspired reading the details of those research studies, and then it also goes through and has personal stories from people and how much they benefited. So this is the kind of book that you have close by for inspiring yourself to exercise. If you're feeling not really in the mood to do it, flip through, read some stories, hear about the positive benefits people have experienced, the research that supports it, and that is one thing that can really help you dig in and get that motivation again. Sure. And then last two books that have been written in the past few years. In addition to incorporating lifestyle factors, some of you may decide to be advocates in your community, to participate with Parkinson's Orange County. There's a lot of things even at a governmental level that need to change to reduce the numbers of people who are receiving a diagnosis of Parkinson's and also to help people who are living with Parkinson's now live healthier. There is a pesticide called paraquat that is still being used in California quite a bit that has a high correlation with increased risk of Parkinson's. And you might say, well, I have Parkinson's now, maybe I was already exposed, who knows exactly when or what contributed to receiving the diagnosis. It's some combination of genetics and environmental exposure. But to me, it just makes sense that anything that may have contributed to receiving a diagnosis could also contribute over time to the symptoms that you experience and rate of progression. So these books are written. Ending Parkinson's Disease is saying that Parkinson's is really an environmental disease, things that we're getting exposed to through air pollution, through pesticides. If anyone here is a veteran, was in Vietnam and exposed to Agent Orange, that is a known contributor to Parkinson's, and coverage through the VA will be covered if you fought in Vietnam. So this book is saying we need to do some things differently to eliminate these toxins from our environment so that we could hopefully eliminate Parkinson's as a diagnosis. So this is the first book they wrote. The second one, the Parkinson's Plan, builds off of this one and goes into ways that you can advocate at the local or state or federal government level to try to advocate. Vermont did just ban paraquat recently, and there are other states that are looking at banning. So these are the kinds of things that need to happen to protect all of us. Children, grandchildren, everyone. We need to make some changes and try to reduce the amount of toxic chemicals that we are exposed to. This book, the Parkinson's Plan, also has, I believe in the back, about 25 things that you can do now that can reduce your risk of receiving a diagnosis of Parkinson's if you aren't already diagnosed, or help you be healthier if you do have a diagnosis, getting something like a filter in your house so that you aren't exposed to as many things when you spend time inside your home. Things like keeping your windows rolled up when you're driving and recirculating the air instead of having windows open and having all the air pollution come in your windows when you're driving. Some things like that that maybe aren't that big of a deal, but could change and reduce your exposure. So both of these books are great references as well, which we highly recommend. All right, so that takes us through our first section, and we now have a break. Yeah. All right.
All right, everybody come take a seat. This is one of the best portions of the day. We have our neurologist, the movement disorder specialist. I don't even know if there's a title beyond queen that we can call her, but maybe she's the queen supreme. Her name is Dr. Ann Lee. We are so grateful that she is here with us. She is from UCI Health. I don't need to introduce her beyond her amazing self that she is. This is a great session. Not only will Dr. Lee, of course, give us a background information on what Parkinson's is, and especially on how it affects your lives, but there's plenty of time for Q&A today. After her presentation, we'll go directly into the question and answer section. This is a great time. If you've got questions, wondering, symptoms, signs, and just plain old, I don't get it, this is a great time to go ahead and ask Dr. Lee. So without further ado, Dr. Lee.
All right, so you can call me Ann. I'm not your physician in this setting, so Ann is fine. I work at UCI Health, so nice to meet everyone. I'm just down the street in Irving. So if you look at this picture, you'll see I have very stylish hair when I was graduating a long time ago. But if you look closely, you'll see my grandfather, who also had Parkinson's. What's funny is that he has had Parkinson's for so long, and I was a college student who was allegedly so interested in medicine, and I myself did not recognize that he had Parkinson's. So I'm very excited today to give this talk because I think there are a lot of things that I'm going to kind of touch on, things that I wish we knew, that I think would have made his journey a little easier. So, Parkinson's disease is quite prevalent. It's rising as one of the most common neurodegenerative conditions in the world. So over 10 million people worldwide have Parkinson's as of right now, and 10% of that is in the US, and around 90,000 people are diagnosed each year in the States. So the primary risk factor is actually age. Many people continue to live meaningful, active lives, and there are more treatment options today and resources ever than before. So a little bit about the basics. We are not in the lab, so I'm not going to elaborate too much, but the basis of Parkinson's is that our body is generating these abnormally folded proteins. I think this concept is more widely known in Alzheimer's. It is an accumulation of abnormally folded proteins, and the protein that we see in Parkinson's is called alpha-synuclein. They're misfolded protein deposits that basically dumps itself into the substantia nigra. If you look at the picture here on the right, in the control you see it's this dark black line. Those are dopaminergic producing neurons in the midbrain in your brain, which is where your brain stem. And then if you look at this picture on the right, there's a patient's brain with Parkinson's. You see that that coloration is diminished. And basically, due to the deposits of the proteins, you lose neuronal ability to make dopamine. The whole basis of Parkinson's is that you're not making enough dopamine. And a major part of your brain, called the basal ganglia, requires dopamine to basically make its circuitry work to help you coordinate your movements. But it does not discriminate. The alpha-synuclein proteins does not necessarily just only dump into the midbrain. We see it also depositing into the peripheral nervous system as well as your autonomic nervous system. And so, although it is known to be a motor disease, Parkinson's is actually a constellation of both motor and non-motor. If you talk to some other neurologists, they'll correct you and they'll say Parkinson's starts as a non-motor disease. So even before the onset of your motor symptoms, some patients will say, yeah, I've had constipation for decades. Other patients may say, I've had sleep difficulties my whole life. And others will say, I could not smell and I thought my sinuses were an issue. This tends to precede the onset of motor symptoms. And it is only until patients start having tremors, bradykinesia, freezing of gait, postural instability, do they realize, oh, backtracking, I've had these symptoms for quite a while. So it's very funny in the clinic when I talk to my patients, they're trying to tell me their motor symptoms, and I'm always like, can you smell? I'm like, that is an irrelevant question, why are you asking me that? But it does matter because it does help us point towards the nucleopathy that preceded. Maybe I'm a little too exciting. All right. So I want the takeaways to know is that Parkinson's is a motor and non-motor disease. So treatment options, I think our prior speakers did a really great job touching on this. Exercise and rehabilitation is key. Then of course there's medications, advanced interventions, and community and support. These are all considered treatment. Am I supposed to point the clicker at the...
It's, like, I don't know that it matters, but...
So you're going to hear levodopa is the gold standard. What is levodopa? Well, do you remember what we said? What is the cornerstone of Parkinson's? We said is the lack of dopamine. So levodopa is literally the precursor to dopamine. So I like to emphasize that because some of my patients are so hesitant to start medication because they think, why am I putting more drugs in my body? But you're really just depleting what your body is missing as a result from the disease. So there's no fear. Levodopa has been around since the 1950s. And if you watch the movie The Awakening, it's been around even further back than that for other diseases. And so levodopa is considered the most effective medication, and it treats motor and oftentimes non-motor symptoms as well, and really greatly improves function and quality of life for patients living with Parkinson's. You'll ask me, why is there a picture of velvet beans on the top right? Well, velvet beans actually is a naturally producing dopamine bean. So some patients actually get velvet bean supplements to begin with because it does excrete some dopamine. And if they really want to delay starting their drug, I'll tell them to get the beans instead. But carbidopa, levodopa comes as a combo pill, so you'll hear some household brands like Cinnamon because it's been around for really long. But most of your Parkinson's drugs is a carbidopa, levodopa combo pill. And why is that? Well, the levodopa needs to get to your brain, so in order for it to get to your brain, it needs to not break down in your gut. So the carbidopa part is really just to decrease the breakdown of levodopa in your gut, so that more of it can cross the blood-brain barrier and make it to your brain to be utilized. So that's why some patients have some side effects, is if they're not getting enough carbidopa in their combo pill, too much of it breaks down in their gut, and they may complain of some nausea or dizziness when they take the medication. I put the picture of the pills because some of my patients don't tell me what dose they're on. They like to tell me the color of their pills. So everyone, the household is everyone takes the yellow round pill, which is the 25-100 right there. But of course, there's different formulations. You'll see there's a 25-250. So the first number is how much carbidopa you're getting, and the second number is how much levodopa you're getting. And then, of course, there's some extended release formulations. And if you talk to our wonderful vendors here, there's also more advanced formulations of carbidopa, levodopa. All right. So I'm going to pause here, and I want to put a few frequently asked questions that I get in the clinic because I'm trying to beat you to it. So what are common side effects of carbidopa, levodopa? So most of the common side effects come from levodopa breaking down in your gut and not making it to your brain. So nausea, dizziness, some patients feel some palpitations, and some patients may also say, oh, it just wiped me out for the day and I feel really drained. But this doesn't happen to everyone. You'll notice that you can take one pill and you feel awful, and then another patient will take 5 pills and they're totally fine. So it does not happen to everybody, but it's something to be mindful of. So then it brings to the next question is Some patients have heard in the community, do I have to take it on an empty stomach for full effect? So this is a controversial topic. If you ask 10 movement specialists, you'll get different answers. So the short answer is technically yes. If you take the pill on an empty stomach, of course, more will get absorbed and you'll get more bang for your buck for the pill that you're taking. But you'll also be at risk of more nausea and dizziness and side effects. So if you are going to have side effects, to me, I'm quite a lax neurologist. So if you get side effects and you decide, I don't want to take the drug anymore, that's going to do you no good. So my philosophy is when you start off taking your medication, take it with take it with food, because you want to be able to tolerate the pills, because this is the gold standard of treatment that you will be on lifelong. So the short answer is no, you do not have to take it on an empty stomach. There is some theory about eating too much protein that can interfere with the absorption of levodopa pills in your gut, but there is no true data on how much that truly reduces the efficacy of your medication. So it is a little bit trial and error, so I don't tell people to just stop eating protein altogether just to be able to take your pills. You need protein to retain muscle mass. So eat your normal diet, make some good changes like your presenters prior to me have said, but you do what is best for you and is maintainable so that you can take this lifelong. All right, that's my rant. All right. So now the last question, this is also a provoking question for me. Is it better to delay starting levodopa medication? What do you guys think?
No.
Oh, great. Okay. That was easy. Okay, yeah, exactly. Some patients will say, I just really want to push it off. I'm doing okay. And I see and they're falling a couple times per day. That is not okay. If you have a subtle tremor and that's it, I'm okay with you delaying, but you want to get the most benefit early on. And this has actually been a very controversial topic for a long time, because if you ask neurologists 10 years ago, they may give you a different answer. But in 2019, there was a major study that looked at hundreds of patients, and they divided the patients into two groups. Half of the patients delayed the start of levodopa as much as possible, and then the other half started it right away. And they looked at the course of the disease, and it did not change when the fluctuations in the advanced stages of Parkinson's emerged. And if anything, it showed that the patients who started the medications earlier actually did better and had a better quality of life. So yes, it is not better to delay starting levodopa medication. So here are a few tips to get the most out of your medication. So of course, take your medications consistently. Take it with meals initially to avoid side effects. Levodopa works right away. Some people think, oh, is this something like gabapentin where I have to take it every day for weeks to see a benefit? No. Actually, within 1 or 2 doses, you should know. After about an hour or two, the medication kicks in, and you should actually feel better. So within a couple days, you'll know if this dose is beneficial for you. I recommend my patients to not stop their medications suddenly, because you can have severe emergence of your Parkinson's symptoms if you stop it abruptly. This really applies for patients who are on higher doses of levodopa. They can become very frozen if they decide I'm going to skip a dose. What could be helpful is keeping a symptom diary. As you know, we had said Parkinson's comes with so many symptoms, but I would just monitor the top 2 symptoms that bother you. Don't overwhelm yourself with all the symptoms that you're experiencing. Pick the top 2 that bothers you. Is it your walking? Is it your tremors? Is it your fatigue? And then see if the levodopa kind of helps those symptoms. Once those are manageable, then you move on to the next symptoms. But don't try to make an Excel sheet with 10 symptoms and mark when levodopa works. Just keep an eye on 1 or 2 symptoms, and then let us know at your next appointment. Are your doses wearing off too early? Are they not peaking enough and you're only getting 20-30% benefit? Are you having side effects? And when you do have side effects, does it occur at the peak of your dose or when your dose is wearing off? So these are key things that would be very helpful for your neurologist who is working with you to optimize your medication regimen. Then I get some questions. Why isn't my medication working? All right, so there are some medication factors. So maybe your dose is too low. although your pharmacist might flag me, there's actually no technical maximum to how much levodopa somebody can have. Because how much dopamine your body is missing, we don't know. There's no measurable test to tell us how much dopamine somebody needs. So there is no maximum until you get side effects. And that's when you get to the phase where you have fluctuations, you take too much medication, and you have dyskinetic movements at the peak. But technically, there are some patients who can take 10 of those little yellow pills at a time to get benefit. So there is no maximum. You just have to work with your neurologist to figure out what dose is best for you in the immediate time period. Other reasons why medication might not be working. Maybe your doses are too far apart. It works for only 3 hours and then you need your next dose. Maybe you're missing doses because you are busy being a good patient and going to all your exercise classes. So set your alarms. Like we mentioned, nausea can lead to inconsistent use. And of course, sometimes patients do feel like I take it and it's not working. And let's say their tremors are the most bothersome symptom, but they're not paying attention to, maybe they also have bradykinesia and the bradykinesia is improving, but it's the tremors that are not. So that's why working with your neurologist, getting regular evaluations will help really understand if the pills are working. And if they don't work, sometimes you can ask your neurologist if they can do what is called an off-on exam. You come into the office with no pills, they examine you, then you take the pill, about 45 minutes later they can examine you again to see if you truly had any benefit from taking the medication. And caveat here, although a lot of motor symptoms do respond to Parkinson's, if you are a rest tremor predominant form of Parkinson's, about 1/3 of the patients actually don't respond to levodopa for the tremors. That is the only special caveat for Parkinson's disease. But there are non-medication factors as to why your medications aren't working. So if you're not sleeping well, that can really cause your doses to fail. If you're having a lot of stress and anxiety that week, that can also cause your medications to fail as well. The biggest thing is infection or other metabolic causes. As you know, Parkinson's is a slowly progressive disease. So if you wake up one day and you're just 10 times worse than you usually are, you're just not moving, you're really bad, then that's actually your body's internal alarm to tell you something else is going on. And more oftentimes than not, a lot of my patients go to urgent care and they have a UTI or they have a little subtle pneumonia that's brewing. So that's kind of nice. You have an internal alarm to tell you that you're ill before you actually get ill. Other causes like dehydration and like they had mentioned earlier, constipation can also cause your medications to fail. All right. So I don't expect everyone to memorize this because I didn't memorize this in medical school. It wasn't until I was a resident until all these meds were ingrained into my mind. But aside from levodopa, there are other medications. And all these other medications, I say, are adjunctive therapies to your levodopa. So you can ask about them with your neurologist, but they are not the mainstay treatment to address your symptoms. All right, so levodopa is the main medication you should be taking, but you'll hear other medications like rasagiline, selegiline, pramipexole, entacapone, amantadine, trihexyphenidyl, istradefylline. These are all medications that help boost the effects of levodopa. Some of them directly stimulate the receptors. Some of them are to extend the levodopa duration. Others help with the fluctuations that you may be experiencing when you take too much levodopa. And others are just for the tremor itself in selected younger patients. So this list is here just so you're aware that they exist and that when your neurologist tells you about it, you're not completely in the dark. But I would leave this to the discretion of your neurologist. Okay. So what happens if medications become less predictable? Don't like to say less effective because it's not that they're less effective, it is that your disease has progressed. So that is a common misconception as well. Patients will think, well, I'm taking all these pills, I'm building tolerance. We're actually not building tolerance if you're no longer getting the response that you need. It's likely because the Parkinson's is progressing. So when you get to a certain stage in the disease, sometimes the medications are a little less predictable. You may take 4 pills to get to a good point to be able to walk better. but it may cause side effects. You may be a little too stimulated, but if you take even half a pill less, it's not enough to get you through the day. So those are what we call fluctuations. And so once you start experiencing motor fluctuations, it's a good time to bring it to your neurologist and ask about advanced therapies beyond the pills. So because we are just talking about the basics, I won't dive too deep into advanced therapies, but it is my favorite topic. Deep brain stimulation, I think we mentioned that earlier. I'm sure everyone has heard about deep brain stimulation. I like to call it as a pacemaker for your brain. There is a battery that goes right under your skin, over your chest. And there's leads and there's electrodes that basically go straight to the basal ganglia to help stimulate it so that you can move better. Then there's the new cool kid on the block, I think, is the focus ultrasound. This uses MRI to help guide the ultrasonic waves to a specific location in your brain to ablate and make a small little lesion in your brain to help stop, let's say, disabling tremors, for example, that are no longer responding to medications. And then, last one. All right. The last one would be subcutaneous or intestinal gel infusions. These medications are here to help. Basically, instead of you having to take the pills every day, they can completely replace the pills or be an adjunct to your pills to help them last longer so that you have a constant influx of some dopaminergic stimulation. So what is the most important thing I can do today? And I'm not going to beat the horse to death, but it's exercise. Exercise, of course, helps you with mobility, balance, mood, sleep, and improved quality of life. And there has been many studies that have shown exercise itself has neuromodulatory effects and actually helps decrease and slow the rate of Parkinson's progression. As you know, right now we do not have a cure for Parkinson's. We are working on it, but exercise is the one thing that has shown to really slow down the disease, even in the prodromal phase before the onset of Parkinson's. So staying active is quite important. So then the next question is, what is the best form of exercise? Exactly. Oh, thank you. Yes, the one that you will do. Exactly. There's, of course, there's so many great ones, but I have a patient who literally will only play pickleball. That's okay. Pickleball is a great form of exercise, and as long as you'll do it, that is what is the best form of exercise. So this is a poor quality photo that I stole from my occupational therapist presentation. So you'll see Rogue PT and Wellness here, but these are other programs locally in Orange County that focuses on Parkinson's. I guess that's it. I'm not going to go too much into that. But other things that you can do right now is always preparing your home for success. So, walking around your home, maybe talking to your occupational therapist to remove tripping hazards. We just want to prevent you from having anything dangerous happening. So maybe that nice rug is not so nice to you. Get rid of it. Or improve lighting. Put in automatic lighting so that when you wake up in the middle of the night to use the restroom, which tends to happen to a lot of my patients, you don't need to struggle to find the light switch or just trying to navigate in the dark. Get lighting that's censored. So then when you walk in, it'll automatically light up your bathroom for you. Biggest thing is your bathroom surface. Because patients with Parkinson's tend to have a more shuffling gait, they are just more easily at risk of tripping. So making sure that you have adhesives in your bathtub, or making sure that when you get out of your tub, there is a strong rug that is adhesed to your floor, and so you don't just step on it and then slip. Those are not safe. But of course, planning ahead. Some patients have a lot of fatigue, so it's okay to schedule naps. That's a good thing. Some patients have fashionable pill holders. I have a patient who has a Chanel little pill holder that she uses just for her cinnamon pills. But whatever it takes, so then she whips it out at brunch with her friends, and that's great. But bring a nice little pill holder so that you don't miss your doses. Of course, we talked about consulting with your occupational therapist, and then preserve your energy when it matters. If you know that today I am going to really give 100% at physical therapy, it's okay to sleep in a little bit. Or ask your doctor, can I have a little bit extra, carbidopa, levodopa to give me a little boost? These are all things that matters. You want to use your energy where it counts. All right, so of course, I cannot gloss by the fact that community and support is a treatment option. We do support groups at UCI. There are so many local support groups. As our presenters have mentioned, you are in a really good area where there's a lot of resources. Having a community, people who can actually understand you, these are all very important. All right, so we're gonna jump now to just frequently asked questions that I get in the clinic. But I feel like this crowd is already on top of it, so I'm gonna ask you guys. So here's the first question. Are you sure I have Parkinson's? Are there any tests for Parkinson's? Yes, okay. Are you sure? I'm usually pretty sure. So there are tests out there. You might see some of your neurologists offering what's called a DAT scan. That scan looks at how your brain reuptakes dopamine. And usually if you have Parkinson's, you are lacking dopamine, so that scan would come back abnormal. And then the other biomarker test is a skin biopsy. So the skin biopsy looks for alpha-synuclein deposits in the skin at 3 sites, your neck and your legs. And if you have synuclein deposits, that is also usually indicative of Parkinson's disease. But are these tests necessary? No. So being able to get diagnosed with Parkinson's for the longest time is a clinical diagnosis. There are clear clinical criteria that your neurologist will go off of to diagnose you with Parkinson's. The biomarker tests are only there if they're unsure. They have done post-mortem studies looking at movement specialists and all the patients that they diagnosed with Parkinson's, and they took a look at the brain after death to confirm if this was indeed Parkinson's this whole time. And using clinical criteria is over 93% accurate. So I would trust your movement disorder specialist. But of course, there are some circumstances where we are unsure. And sometimes the tests can help differentiate, such as if you are somebody who has essential tremor that runs in your family, and your tremors are quite violent, and we're unsure, then sometimes, yeah, we'll get the DAT scan to help see if this is Parkinson's or essential tremor. But these tests are not quite diagnostic. They also have a sensitivity rate of like 90% or so, especially early in the disease. So even if it's negative, it doesn't mean you don't necessarily have Parkinson's. It could mean you just have really early Parkinson's. So it's only helpful if it's positive. It's not very helpful when it's negative. So I would use the test sparingly, because just because it's negative doesn't mean you don't have it. I would trust your neurologist. Okay, does Parkinson's disease run in the family?
Not necessarily.
Yes, correct. So 90% of the time, as we had mentioned earlier, is sporadic. So if you have it in your 50s and 60s, 90% of the time it's likely sporadic. Only 10% of the time is there a monogenic cause where there is a genetic link, and those patients usually have onset around their 40s. Their phenotype looks a little bit more different than the classic Parkinson's disease. And just because you have the gene doesn't mean you'll actually express it. The penetrance of Parkinson's disease genes is quite low. So that's why testing for Parkinson's genetics is not always gold standard, because your kid may have the gene and they may only have a 40% of even expressing the gene itself. So for the most part, Parkinson's disease does not run in the family. All right, when should I get DBS? Yeah. So I think it's a good idea to always open up the discussion early. One thing I always tell my patients too is that DBS does not fix everything in Parkinson's. DBS is really good for 3 main symptoms, okay? So it's tremor, rigidity, and bradykinesia. If your main complaint is balance issues, swallowing difficulties, DBS will not fix that, and DBS can actually make those issues worse. So you should open up this conversation with your neurologist early if you are interested, but you should also have a very open discussion with them whether you are even a good candidate and what kind of expectations you should have after the surgery.
What is DBS?
Deep brain stimulation. That's the one that's a pacemaker for your brain.
Can you repeat?
Sorry, repeat what, sorry? Oh, DBS is deep brain stimulation. It's the one that has like the pacemaker under your chest and has the wire that runs into your brain to stimulate it. All right. How long until I get dementia?
It varies from person to person.
Exactly. And not everyone gets dementia. I have a patient who's had Parkinson's for 40 years and he's still walking about 3 miles every day. So you will not necessarily have dementia. Everybody's course is different. Should I go on permanent disability at work? You're getting the trend of my questions. Yeah, not necessarily. I have patients who've had Parkinson's for a long time and they're still maintaining their work as an aerospace engineer or as a physician. Just because you have Parkinson's doesn't mean you necessarily should go on permanent disability. It varies and based on the severity of your disease. All right, I still have more because I get a lot of questions in clinic. My neighbor has Parkinson's and is wheelchair bound. How long before I become wheelchair bound?
Can't say, yeah.
Great. Sorry, I won't elaborate. I think I've done that enough. Will I die from Parkinson's? I think this is a tough question that I get.
No,
complications maybe.
Yes. Okay, great. So when I say it in clinic, I think I sound a little morbid. But the truth is, there are so many treatment options out there that most patients die from the other top reasons to die. This is heart attack, stroke, cancer, and they end up dying with Parkinson's. And doesn't mean that your life is easier. Of course, your life is tough with Parkinson's, but you learn to live with it. But I do have 2 caveats as to why somebody would die from Parkinson's. And I know this is not a fun, humorous topic. But, sorry?
I said falling.
Yes, falling. So one is a catastrophic fall. There hits a point where if you are repeatedly falling and you're not taking protective measures to keep yourself safe, you could fall and hit your head, and one of those falls could result in a catastrophic brain bleed or a really bad hip fracture, and then you could die in surgery from the hip fracture from complications. So that is why being plugged in with your physical therapist early is very important. If you ever get to the phase where you are falling a lot, they will teach you safety measures. They will tell you what kind of walking mobility aid that you will need to keep you safe. And obviously, like we said, setting your home up for success, making sure that the corners are, covered or rounded, making sure that you have soft surfaces so that you fall. Learning how to fall, that's also very important. Now, there's a second reason why somebody would die from Parkinson's is aspiration. Right? This comes from, as you know, your voice will get weak. Not everybody, but some patients with Parkinson's have weak voices because their oropharyngeal muscles are slow. So this is why speech therapy is also very important. I actually tell my patients to sing when they can. Singing helps project your voice. I think one of our local speech therapists does what's called the tremble class. I think they're quite popular. Are they there? Yeah. They're a tremble class.
Not speech therapy, music therapy.
Music therapy, yes. So being able to strengthen your oropharyngeal muscles will help slow down the progression and help prevent aspiration. Another thing is that patients with Parkinson's tend to salivate a lot. So if you are excessively drooling, some of that can end up going into your lungs and causing a pneumonia or cause you to aspirate. So if you are noticing excessive salivation, don't struggle. Tell your neurologist. We can do injections to help dry you out to decrease the risk of aspiration. Can I still drive? Yes. Okay. Easy answer. Yes. If you notice if your reaction time is too slow, please let your doctor know or go to the DMV and just take a driver's test to see how you're doing. Okay? And then the last question that I get grilled on a lot is, what's new in Parkinson's? And is there a cure? So there's a lot of new things coming out in Parkinson's. And I'm very proud of where I'm from. So at UCI, we are doing clinical trials. We are working on stem cell research using progenitor cells implanted deep into this midbrain where the substantia nigra is, hoping to replace those dopaminergic neurons. Then there are also neuroprotective therapies like GDNF that's being studied as well to see if it can restore dopamine neurons. But of course, there are other things in Parkinson's. There's new DBS programming techniques. They are trying to learn ways of how your brain signals so that we can emulate that with the pacemaker. So your neurologists will be skilled at this. There are new focused ultrasound ablation techniques. We're looking for new targets that we can lesion off to see if we can, slow down your symptoms. There are some people who controversially think that you don't need your basal ganglia to live. So that's up for debate. Then there are people studying management and prevention in prodromal Parkinson's. So catching, this patient has a lack of sense of smell. Is there any other biomarker that I can use to identify my risk of Parkinson's so that I can do something before the onset of Parkinson's? And then if unfortunately we don't know everything out there, so there's a website called clinicaltrials.gov. You can go on that website. It is for all NIH federally funded research in Parkinson's, and you can look up clinical trials that are recruiting or ongoing or just closed, so that you can learn about other new treatment options out there for Parkinson's. And so take-home messages. Parkinson's is more than just tremor. It is a constellation of motor and non-motor symptoms. Exercise and physical activity have disease-modifying potential. I think we really honed in on that. So I hope everybody goes and calls their physical therapist on Monday. There is no perfect Parkinson's treatment. Build your own recipe with your neurologist. I would say it's like you're being a chef or a baker. I don't know if anyone likes cooking or baking, but you have to build your own recipe. What works for your neighbor may not work for you. And even though it may seem perfect on paper for you, maybe it doesn't fit your lifestyle. I have a patient who is a perfect candidate for the levodopa pump, but she wants to go to Nigeria for 6 months to be with her family. So that's, even though perfectly on paper as a neurologist, I really want to give her the pump, maybe it's not the best option for her. So you should always take into account what your priorities are. So my fourth one is don't suffer unnecessarily. If you are struggling, please let your doctor know. There's always something that we can do. We're quite stubborn people. I think neurologists are wired that way. So please don't suffer unnecessarily. Come ready to your appointments so we can help you. Sudden worsening is not typical of Parkinson's and is usually a red flag. If all of a sudden one day you wake up and you're hallucinating or you notice your partner is hallucinating, yes, tell your doctor, but go to urgent care. More times than not, there is something else brewing. I usually get these calls after Christmas because everybody waits, and then the day after Christmas, I get a flood of calls about their symptoms worsening. And I would say about 80% of my patients end up with a UTI or some sort of pneumonia from the winter. Build your team early, talk to your neurologist. Some patients may think, I'm so early, I don't need to know my physical therapist, and that's not necessarily true. You should talk to them, they should know you. Enroll yourself in exercise programs, talk to your family and friends, join support groups. Maybe your friend, your local friend in your local support group might have better advice than us. Maybe they have something more practical. They found a device on Amazon that might help them with something. So I'm very open to you talking to your friends. And of course, the future is brighter than ever. There are more therapeutic options available more than ever. So please do not hesitate to ask your neurologist about them. So this is my favorite advice. Don't let perfect be the enemy of good. When you get diagnosed, I think people feel like this is a very life-changing moment for them. And I think some of my patients tend to change their whole life so that they can just dedicate it to being a Parkinson's warrior, and that's great. But you don't have to be perfect. You just have to do something. You want to have a sustainable lifestyle that supports your health, your happiness, and your priorities. So the best treatment plan is not the one that's perfect on paper, but the one that works for you. And that's our team at UCI. And I guess that's it. I don't know how I'm doing on time.
Very good.
Yeah, okay.
First of all, I think Dr. McLean deserves another round of applause. And I absolutely love. You don't have to be perfect. And I I think that's the hard part. We tend to compare ourselves to these amazing athletes or people who, are so passionate about their Parkinson's disease. It's not about being perfect, but it is about doing that one step that's better than yesterday's. Thank you. Thank you so much. We are not though, because we do have 3 amazing experts in the room. This is, of course, Dr. Lee, Claire, oh, there she is, she's running around. And then we have one, if you want to put your phone down and actually get up here. Thanks. Our 3 panelists from today are here to answer your questions. So for the next 15 minutes, we would love to host a Q&A. You can direct them at any one of our experts at any time. What I'll do is you can go ahead, raise your hand, I'll repeat your question, and then we'll go ahead and see which one of our lovely panelists will tackle that one. So at this point, go ahead, raise your hand. Are there any questions? Yes.
So to Dr. Lee, I've read the headlines but don't know the details from the FDA that has a caution out about users of carbidopa, levodopa, and B6 vitamins. Can you comment on that at all?
So just so everybody can hear, the FDA did issue a warning about carbidopa, levodopa, and the complications it could have with B6 vitamins. Dr. Lee?
Yeah, so this actually came in my inbox about a month ago. And yes, so it has been shown that higher doses of levodopa can cause low B6. So it's just a low B6 vitamin. So the advice is that just to caution your neurologist to check that because low B6 can cause neuropathy. So some patients may start having neuropathy symptoms, and we like to test for common things like B12 deficiency, other forms like thyroid problems, but we don't want to miss that. So if that's the case, then we would just supplement you. So just keep an eye out. Yeah, so usually patients in the beginning phases, it's not something to worry about, but once you start taking 3 or 4 tablets of the levodopa pills, so that's something to just keep on the radar if your feet are going numb. But not to say that your feet can go numb from other reasons too. So keep an eye.
All right, next question. Yes.
I want to thank you all. This is really a great forum. It's so hard for us to get the information. We've been at it a couple of years, and just by way of maybe it sounded like a complaint, I'd like some advice, but I find dealing with the medical industry is much more difficult these days to get calls back or to answer questions. And when we go to our neurologist, or my wife, it's very hard to get a conversation going about optimizing medications or what to look forward to. I don't buy that I can just walk into the neurologist appointment and get the answers to the questions.
I agree. Yeah.
Anybody
Or
else
know
have-
your neurologist or the physical therapist. They just don't take the time with people anymore. And it takes months to get appointments.
If you can even get somebody to answer the phone.
Yeah.
Okay. The question is, what can we do? I mean, this is a great forum because we can ask questions.
So I hear like a round of oh yes from the audience, and the form of the question that is a very real statement is so many of us, we call and then we're put on hold, and then we finally get to an operator only to find that our doctor has an appointment but it's 6 months away. Then we get to the doctor's office, they have less than 15 minutes, they don't really hear us when we're trying to find our medication optimization. So what can we do?
Amen.
Oh, I summarized it in a nutshell. Mic drop. I believe this is for Dr. Lee.
So I share that sentiment because I just moved back here from the NIH a year ago, and I have a 6-month wait list myself. So I wish I could solve those issues, but I do think sometimes it helps if you ask to make an appointment just to discuss options, not based on just what your doctor told you. Like, oh yeah, you come back in 6 months and just see how you're doing. But you can call and see if you can get in and say, I just want an appointment just to talk about medications. And maybe they can accommodate, and that might just be an open discussion. I have the luxury of spending a little bit more time with my patients because we're at an academic center, but I know, as we have seen, 90,000 patients are being diagnosed every year, so burden is there. I think there's a lot of things in the pipeline that need to be hopefully improved over time, more neurologists, more movement disorder specialists, but I would say make an appointment just to discuss those things. I guess, am I allowed to talk about my program a little bit? At UCI, we are trying to launch an advanced interventions program, so that's launching in August. So they're dedicated slots for patients to just come and talk about DBS, focused ultrasound, subcutaneous pumps. So because we realize that some patients have to wait a year to even get those advanced therapies, and that's not fair. Your disease can change so much in a year. So we are launching that program to hopefully lessen the burden in the community and the wait time. So please let me know if that's something you're interested in. But I know that so many other institutions are trying to brainstorm ways to get their patients in sooner, whether that's getting more APPs or, the MyChart system is helping patients, ask some questions, and then it's a double-edged sword because I get a lot of questions in the middle of the night. But yes, I do think there are some solutions underway, but for now, the best you can do is try to make an appointment just dedicated to discussing your options while you're doing great, not necessarily when you're not doing well.
I would say as a patient, you have got to learn to be an advocate for yourself. You have got to be a squeaky wheel. It works. I've had to do it myself. We have, I think, 17 movement disorder specialists in Orange County. Most places in the country have one here, one there. I think there's like 600 in the whole country. And all of them here are booked solid. Ask to be put on a cancellation list. Call often. Be a squeaky wheel. You have to do it these days. So you have to empower yourself, educate yourself. I go in with a list of questions. And I start, before my doctor goes into her whole thing, she knows I want my questions answered. This is what I'm really concerned about. So we get my priorities answered first.
And consider a second opinion. If you're seeing a neurologist that you don't feel like you're able to ask questions or communicate with, anytime you're dealing with a serious medical condition, I think you should have a second opinion. So having a second opinion, whether then you find like this is a neurologist and I now feel like I have the opportunity to ask questions, they're hearing what I'm saying, it's not easy to get in for that first visit, but if you do have a neurologist that it feels like it's just not the right fit, consider having a second opinion.
Awesome. And if you want tips on how to be kindly annoying, I'm up for hire. Because you probably all heard from us at least 3 times before you showed up today. So, but that's to say Parkinson's Orange County has advocated for patients who feel like it's going to be too long before they're seen and they need urgent answers now. In fact, one of our members just recently had his DBS surgery moved up 4 whole months beyond its projection because we all advocated and we all went to bat for him. So be squeaky, be annoying, and know that we are right here behind you.
Where do you start? Do you start with your primary to be referred to a different neurologist? Is that where you would start?
It probably depends somewhat on your insurance.
Yes.
So if you have Medicare as a primary with a supplemental or a PPO, you typically have more options for where you go. If you have a Medicare Advantage or something that functions like a HMO, then you may have to get a referral. So then you might have to go to the primary care to request an additional, request a second opinion.
Correct, and you can always call your insurance itself because actually the insurance agents will tell you, oh, you want to go here? Actually, I need you to do A, B, then C. So I would always say go back to your insurance first, be clear about it, and then of course find the resources you're looking for. Next question. Wow, are we that good?
Yeah.
Okay, we've got a couple of questions. Yes, sir.
Can you tell me the difference between Parkinson's and essential tremor?
Ooh, that's a good one. Can you tell me the difference between Parkinson's and essential tremors? This one's for Dr. Lee.
Yes, they are completely different entities. They may look the same at some point in the disease. Essential tremor is its own primary disorder. It is a pure tremor disease that is due to a circuitry deficit between your cerebellum and your thalamus. It has abnormal oscillations and causes you to tremor. From the patient standpoint, the biggest thing is that it's more so a postural and an action tremor. So it's more so when you are reaching for things. So people will say, yeah, when I'm trying to hold a cup of water, that's when I'm much more tremulous than when I'm sitting at rest. It does progress over time, but the only thing that should be progressing is the tremor. Meanwhile, Parkinson's is a neurodegenerative condition. It is a constellation of both motor and non-motor symptoms, more so with the substantia nigra and the basal ganglia. But from the patient standpoint, this is why I teach from med students. If you're really unsure what kind of tremor you have, Parkinsonian tremors tend to happen more at rest. And then when you are reaching for things, the tremor tends to steady. So that's kind of the major differing factor, but it doesn't apply to all cases.
Yes, next question.
I have more of a affirming dialogue than a question.
Ooh, an affirming dialogue. Do tell.
I don't know what that means.
Did you want the mic?
No. You want to be held accountable. So I've been a member of this exclusive club going on 3 years. And I know Lauren mentioned when she was first diagnosed, she was devastated. And I knew so little about Parkinson's when I got my diagnosis, other than Michael J. Fox. I didn't know what was ahead of me. So within 2 weeks, I had met Lauren at some fundraiser at a hamburger joint in Tustin, and got into the family, right? So I have all these aspiring and influential women in my life that my wife is kind of jealous of. She doesn't control me as much as and Dr. Ann's do, so you're part of the club too. But we are so lucky, and Lauren, you mentioned this earlier, to be in Orange County. I mean, I did a lot of research, and I've gone to the Davis Finney and the Fox organizations and Parkinson's and all the local things here. You cannot get enough information from a local basis as we have the opportunity to. And I've joined some of the social media groups, and I quickly exited because it was so depressing. People in Minot, North Dakota, that can't see a specialist, or there's no Rocksteady group or anything near them. But in Orange County, we are so fortunate to have Parkinson's. Take that with a grain of salt. But I think we need to listen to the vendors that are here today. Listen to the people that you have for guest speakers. Contribute your time, your energy, your finances, if you can, to local people like Bob Lear and the Walk for Parkinson's or the Walk Ride. There is so much stuff that you have this bigger family than you realize. And don't worry about how you got it. Don't worry about why is me. I always tell people that I have lived a charmed life, and I'm still charming. So, I think this is the third time I've been to this location, and why your discussions have been pretty similar. It takes me a couple times to realize why ice cream may not be good for me. I'm not there yet. But I am eating more green vegetables. So that's most important. So that's you've got resources here. Just deal with it. Learn from each other. The camaraderie that we have at our Rocksteady group in Irvine is far more beneficial than doing burpees. Just do whatever's comfortable for you, and you can survive this. I plan on living a long life, and I may have a funky gait, I may be losing my voice a little bit, but I'm not well, but I am funny.
So to summarize, all the women up here are amazing. And you are charming.
Lesson learned.
Sounds like a great workshop.
I think we could wrap it up.
Yeah, we're done. Well, we do have a few minutes left for questions. So yeah.
Drop the mic.
Oh, yes, drop the mic.
Expensive.
Yes, question.
Earlier we were talking about carbidopa medication. Is there a reason when it's spread out during the day versus once or twice?
Oh, that's a great question. I believe this, of course, will go to Dr. Lee, but the question was, with carbidopa levodopa, is there a reason that it's spread throughout the day? Please answer.
Well, I'm looking at our booth over there with Prexont, and they are dosed twice a day. So the generic form of carbidopa, the way that it was made, the half-life and the stability of the compound really is only good for about 6 hours. So that is why. But the one thing we like about it is that it works really fast and it's very reliable. So for the most part, we always start our patients on that one. But if it gets too complicated and the patients can't handle it, or it starts to shorten its interval, because over time your disease progresses, and instead of 6 hours, it may only last 3 or 4 hours, then we start to consult our colleagues over here from Prexont, Rytari. There are other formulations of levodopa pills that can help extend its life.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, Aaron,
Could
in
you
the back.
clarify that? Maybe I missed it, but how often should, you said every 6 hours or so. Are you supposed to take it 4 times a day then? Or?
Yeah, so most patients, if you go to any pharmacy, it's generically 3 times a day. I tell my patients to time it with their meals, so 8 a.m., 2 p.m., 8 p.m. It only works when you take it, so if you're asleep, there's no need for it. It's only if, like she was saying, if you wake up in the middle of the night with a lot of off symptoms, like you're really uncomfortable and you always get up at 2 in the morning to use the restroom and you just cannot walk, then we'll ask you to dose it again. But I would rather not interrupt your sleep to give you an extra dose for no reason, and then you're asleep throughout it anyway, so you're not getting the most out of it.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Aaron in the back.
I wondered if you could talk a little bit about Parkinson's plus conditions, like supranuclear palsy, Parkinsonism, Lewy body. I'm always trying to learn a bit more about all the variations.
Ooh, that was a broad question.
Yeah,
Aaron.
sorry.
No, that's all right. Aaron wants to know a little bit more about sort of the movement disorder umbrella, all of the different things that can, or maybe even originally be labeled as Parkinson's, but sometimes develop into different movement disorders over time.
Yeah, so that's a loaded topic, and I think even teaching my residents, it takes me about an hour. In a nutshell, in the very beginning stages of Parkinson's, sometimes people may get misdiagnosed as Parkinson's, and it could be something else. And it's not your neurologist's fault. I will never blame our colleagues. But it's usually because they tend to look the same. A lot of the symptoms are overlapping. So in the initial phase, if you don't look like classic Parkinson's, like you have some slowness, maybe you have some tremors, but you are more stiff in your neck and back than your limbs, that's a bit of a red flag, and we stay open-minded about other forms of Parkinsonism. So you'll hear the word Parkinsonism quite a bit. Parkinsonism is kind of the umbrella term of these motor symptoms that occur. So this is tremor, slowness, stiffness, balance issues. But they don't necessarily mean you have Parkinson's disease. Parkinson's disease is just the most common form of Parkinsonism. You can have one of the other 4, which is dementia with Lewy bodies, which I know if you know Robin Williams, he had DLB. You could have multiple systems atrophy, dementia with Lewy bodies, what else? Progressive supranuclear palsy and cortical basal syndrome. 2 of them, PSP and CBS, are a different protein deposit, while dementia with Lewy bodies and MSA are also synucleinopathies. They all have different constellations, so it's up to your neurologist to say, oh, these are red flags. So if you read your notes, some neurologists may say, yes, they presented with slowness, rest tremor, but these are some red flag signs. So falling really early within the first year of your diagnosis, having severe non-motor fluctuations like autonomic instability, or hallucinating or getting dementia early. As we know, Parkinson's disease is not known to have dementia early, so these are red flag symptoms. Or what we call cortical signs as neurologists, where your limb jerks for no reason and you just have no control over one arm at all, that's also a red flag. So in those red flag circumstances, that's when these tests could be useful to kind of help tease out what type of Parkinsonism you have. But it is okay to be misdiagnosed in the first couple years because all of them should be treated with levodopa anyways. They are all rooted in the lack of dopamine. It's just where in the brain is the dopamine lacking. So in the beginning stages, we treat everybody with levodopa, and then over time I tell patients, knowing your neurologist is like dating. You have to like them, and if you like them, you kind of have to commit to them, because over the next couple of years, they'll really know you well, and they'll know if your progression is atypical or if it's quite typical.
Thanks so much.
Awesome, I like it. Dating. Get to know them.
I'm kind of married to them.
Yeah.
talks. All right, guys. Well, is there any last outstanding questions that anybody didn't get the chance to ask? Oh, Erin.
Sorry. I'd love to know what kind of recommendations, other than the ones that have already been shared, or if there are any other recommendations you would share for managing fall risk.
Ooh, recommendations for managing fall risk. I think that's something great for the whole panel. Actually, can I start with Claire?
Please.
Yeah, I mean, from a physical therapist standpoint, managing fall risks, you want to work with a physical therapist, and ideally also an occupational therapist as well. We work very closely together and just kind of come at the situation from a slightly different perspective, and we both have a lot to add. Physical therapists tend to look at things like your balance, strength. There's a lot of factors. Again, this is very complicated. There's a lot of things that can contribute to an increased risk of falls. So we want to assess the situation. When are the falls happening? Is there something that precedes it? Are you getting lightheaded or dizzy? Was there an actual obstacle that contributed to this fall? So it's a really deep dive into figuring out what was the situation where you had a fall, and then kind of peeling back the layers of what can we do about that. So we can work on balance, we can build strength, we can build endurance. You're going to talk to your neurologist and kind of check all medications. There are some medications that can impact things as well. We are going to do specific types of training. Here at Rogue, we have 2 specialty types of balance training programs that are not available that widely. One is called reactive balance training, which when you train balance and you say, I'm going to stand on an unstable surface, or I'm going to stand on one leg or with one foot in front of the other leg, you're deciding what you're doing, so that is anticipatory. Reactive balance is if you're walking and you trip over something, like something happened to you, and your brain has to respond very quickly to what just happened. You don't get to decide, whoops, I tripped, I better put my foot out in front of me. There's no time for that. So reactive balance training is implementing training in a way that something happens to you. It's challenging. What we do is we have what's called a slip trip trainer. It's this board on wheels. You wear a harness, you're connected for safety so you cannot have a fall, and you're standing on this platform, and we move it forward and back or side to side, and actually impart a balance challenge to you where you do have to take a step to catch your balance. This is a type of training that is very difficult to do on your own, and you also, even when you work with a physical therapist, you have to have a specific setup to be able to do that. There are other ways that it can be trained without this board. It's not the only way you can train it, but it is a very helpful tool. There's lots of other ways that reactive balance training can occur. But this type of training has been shown in research to decrease risk of falls in even one training session for up to a year. So we do that training as part of our program here. Some people benefit from additional sessions. And then another type of specialty balance training we have is athletic falls training. So Dr. Lee mentioned that. I believe that you said kind of to maybe learn to fall well. So our goal is to prevent falls whenever possible. But preventing 100% of falls is not totally realistic. There are things that happen in our life and in our environment that may mean, a fall is going to happen. So if that does happen, the more athletically you can have a fall means that you're less likely to have an injury. So it's kind of martial arts is the basis of this training. So you're down on the ground to start with, moving around, rolling, crawling, and you start to kind of work your way up away from the floor, but you actually practice falling and learn how to fall better. Protect your head. Go with the momentum. Instead of reaching your arms up to try to stop yourself, tuck and roll. So there's a lot of things that you can actually do to make yourself safer. And the more comfortable you are, even just being on the floor, has also been shown in research to reduce your risk of falls. So there's a lot of things we can do, from training different systems to practicing balance in specific ways to ultimately keeping you safe even if something like that happens. There's also use of assistive devices like Dr. Lee mentioned to give you some balance support, which that's a big thing. A lot of times people don't want to use a walker or think if I use it now, I'm going to have to use it forever. And when it comes to Parkinson's, it's often that there's some ups and downs over time. There might be a time where balance is impaired and you would really benefit from using a walker to be safer, maybe even just at certain times of the day, during an off or when you're tired. You don't necessarily need to use it all the time, and you may not need to use it forever. We've had people that use it for a period of time, keep themselves safe, get fitter, optimize their meds, and then they don't need the walker anymore. So just these kinds of conversations about using tools, whatever is helping you stay safe and active, is very important to use.
I would just say as a patient, I have an agreement with my husband. I think I'm fine to go up on a step stool and get something. I don't do it because I told him I will not. So I think I'm okay, but we have that agreement. You just have to know your limitations.
Yeah, I have nothing else to add besides, don't be scared to ask for help. I think that's very important. Something my grandpa really struggled with was that he was very prideful. He did not want people seeing him with a walker or did not want help at the airport. And these have resulted in so many falls towards the end of his life. So you want to protect yourself. You want to conserve your energy when it matters. You can go to Italy and go on the cobblestone roads. Just make accommodations. Bring a walker. Bring something that has a seat. That is the way you'll prevent fall risk. So I guess my advice is don't be afraid to ask for help.
Well, everybody give a round of applause for our panel. Or, in the words of Scott Langle, 4 amazing women. Inspiring amazing women, enough to make your loved one jealous. Right, that should be our motto, our tagline, enough to make your loved one jealous. No, so very briefly, we are going to go around the room. I know some of us had a chance to meet our vendors, some of us did not. We are going to you get your 10-second elevator pitch just to make sure that everybody knows who's in the room and what resources they have for you. Claire, did you want to give your 10-second elevator pitch for Rogue and what Rogue offers?
Yeah, you have all already heard from me this morning. So this gym that we are in right now, this place is for people who have Parkinson's. So I think sometimes people don't realize that. That's what this whole place is dedicated to, is working with people who have Parkinson's. So we share space with OCOT that does individual occupational and physical therapy through insurance, and then we offer wellness classes and balance training and other services to help people stay active all year round, in addition to or after they do individual therapy, or sometimes before. Sometimes people start with us with exercise and do the individual physical therapy and occupational therapy if and when needed. So if you live in a place where it is not too far to come here to exercise with us in person, and you're interested, give us a call. We would schedule a consultation. We would meet and tell you about the classes that we have, 8 different types at 5 different levels, recommend which ones we think would be a good fit for you. You then get to try those classes. All of that is at no cost. Then if you do decide to join, we basically operate as a specialty gym. So there is a monthly membership fee to be a member here, and you get your classes, online access, specialty balance training, assessments, educational meetings, support groups, all of that is included in the membership. So yeah, give us a call if you're interested. And some of you might have seen on our table, I wrote a book basically going into more depth into all the lifestyle things that we talked about today, the research, positive stories, my experience as a physical therapist. And so this is available. We're going to send the ebook version out in the follow-up email, so you'll be able to read through if you're interested. We also did print some copies, but as some of you might know, printing is expensive. So if you would like a paper copy, there is a suggested donation to Parkinson's Orange County of $10 if you really would like a physical copy of the book. But basically it goes into all the things we talked about a little bit in more depth, and you may just be able to process this information better reading through and having more time and opportunity. We know this morning was a lot. So just so you know, that is available here as well.
Wow, that was some 10 seconds there.
I've never been able to talk for only 10 seconds. Working on it.
All right, OCOT.
I'm Sarah. I'm an occupational therapist. I work at Orange County Occupational Therapy and Physical Therapy. We operate out of this space here. We also can see patients in their homes. We do one-on-one insurance-based therapy. We get an hour with you. So we get a lot of good time to get to know you. Occupational therapy, we're focusing on your daily function. So if there's anything in your daily life that you're struggling with, come to us. It could be buttoning, it could be getting dressed, it could be getting down on the floor to pick up your grandchildren. Any kind of those daily tasks, getting in and out of the car. We want you to be able to do whatever you like to do or want to do or need to do as safely and independently as possible. And we offer physical therapy services as well.
Ooh, fantastic. Thank you. And now the Caregiver Resource Center.
Hello everyone, my name is Gabby. Today I'm representing the Caregiver Resource Center of Orange County. If you're a care partner or a caregiver for a loved one and you're stressed out, we have grant funds to pay for in-home care. We also have grants that can pay for any supplies to care for your loved one. We have grants that can pay for legal help, for cleaning services to help out with like chores around the house. We also offer support groups, classes, and individual counseling. All of our services are free. There's no insurance requirements, no income requirements. As long as you live in the county, you qualify. We are a state program, so if you live in LA or Riverside, we do have a center that can serve you. But we serve all of Orange County. Thank you.
Absolutely. And Parkinson's Orange County is very proud to partner with the Caregiver Resource Center. So many times members call and they need help, be that with around the house or just extra funds for certain things. That's a great reference. We are very grateful to have you. Thank you. All right, next PEP for you.
Okay.
10 seconds, Carrie. 10 seconds.
I'm Karen Skipper. I'm here for PEP for You. We have 3 people here today, so you can ask any of us questions. But anyway, it is a free exercise program, and it's not just exercise. It's exercise, speech therapy, music therapy, social times. I have the very robust schedule here. And 6 days a week of programs all throughout Orange County, English and Spanish. And you heard a little while ago about treble clefs. We are one of PEP for You's programs. If you want more information, we have schedules here. You can sign up and we'll reach out to you and let you know what we have available. And it's all free.
Thank you very much. All right, and Memorial Care, the Orange Coast campus.
My name is Erin. I serve as neuroscience navigator at the hospital less than a mile down the street. People think that sounds fancy, but I'm basically a glorified hand holder for movement disorders patients through our movement disorders program, and that includes our complementary Parkinson's support services. That's our support groups, both for patient and care partner. Our exercise classes, our speech therapy maintenance sessions, as well as I can help guide you on your way to any diagnostic imaging, outpatient one-to-one rehab with our LSVT and POWER certified therapists who also lead our free group classes, as well as guiding folks to our surgical options such as deep brain stimulation and MR-guided focused ultrasound.
Thank you very much. I am Movement.
Thank you. My name is Bob. I'm the guy in Movement. We opened the Rock Student Boxing Program. The charmer on the front row there is Scott. He's the valuable part of our team. We do the entire program here. And the socialization part of the program is very important too. I mean, good friends quickly. It's a lot of fun. I've been going there for about 7 years. I've lost 35 pounds in 7 years. Kept it off. Been coaching it for a couple of years. So come and join us.
Fantastic. Thank you. Dr. Tanya Denny.
Hi, I'm Dr. Tanya Denny. I actually moved down to this area for residency with UCI after Hinchcliffe. I was able to work with her over my residency year in Parkinson's. I've been working on since 2010, actually, with the bean plant that was mentioned earlier. I do some research on that. And have really focused in on the integrated landscape with Parkinson's. So here in the area, I have a room here at Rome and work internationally to see the results.
She was my doctor for a while.
Bob Lear with SoCal Ride for Parkinson's.
Hi, my name's Bob Lear, founder of SoCal Ride for Parkinson's. Started 9 years ago, very humble beginnings. I'm very adamant about 501c3s, fundraising ventures, that the money that we take in, we're all volunteers, every penny, registration, donations, money for bike jerseys, all goes to the Fox Foundation. This last year, we raised $476,000. It's a one-day event. Hoag Hospital is our host. The Pickup County Neuroscience Institute also helps us. It's held out in Irvine. It's a ride and a walk. It's a fun day. Every penny that we raise goes to Parkinson's research. And in 9 years, we've raised $2.5 million. Anyway, it's a fun day, and if you sign up, it does cost you. It's $50 to register. You get a free In-N-Out burger. So, yeah. Can't get any better than that, right? So
When does it happen, Bob?
Good to see you. Sorry, what?
When does it happen?
Thank you. It's the last Saturday of April every year. So next year is April 24th, 2027.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Raise hands, ride a bike, eat a burger. Sounds like a good combo. My Concordia students.
We are undergraduate students at Concordia University, Irvine, and our study, I'll keep it brief, but all the lifestyle variables that we discussed today, like sleep, exercise, these are areas of control that you have over your disease. So our study really focuses knowledge is power. You have nothing to lose by understanding yourself or your loved one more. You can come in for an appointment. It's a 3-hour appointment once a year, and if you come back year after year, you can actually track the progression over time. I see some familiar faces. We're really active in the Parkinson's disease community. We as students also do research. I was invited to take my research this year to South Korea to present at the International Parkinson's Congress with the Movement Disorder Society. So not only are you understanding yourself better, you are also advancing research for other people with Parkinson's. So if you want to make appointments, we are open until the end of June and sponsor for open.
And they have good snacks.
And we would like to thank AbbVie. Their representative had to leave early, but thank you to AbbVie for being our gold sponsor. Remember, funding from our fellow exhibitors and vendors today helps us put on these events. So thank you very much to AbbVie. But thank you so much to Amneal and to Supernus. And Robin from Amneal is here, and they have the platinum level sponsorship. Because of you, we are able to host what we do today. Robin?
Hi, my name is Robin. I am a representative for Amneal Pharmaceuticals, and we have products for Parkinson's disease. So the Crexont, which is an extended release carbidopa levodopa, came out coming up on 2 years, came out fall of 2024. And then we also market Agentis, which is an add-on. It's an adjunctive therapy to carbidopa levodopa, which is a COMT inhibitor that extends the life of levodopa. We also did manufacture Rytari, which went generic this last year. So you probably heard of Rytari. It's another extended release carbidopa levodopa that's now available in a generic form. So I have lots of information here. If you have questions, you can come up and ask. But I'm happy to be here, and we're happy to support you guys and be a part of this. So thank you for having us.
Thanks for allowing us to do what we do. And last but certainly not least, Christy from Supernus.
Hi, thank you for having us here as well. So happy to support this always. We are a biopharmaceutical company. We have 2 products that you can come up and ask me about if you have any questions. The first one is Gocovri. This is extended release amantadine. This one is utilized if someone is experiencing any symptoms of dyskinesia. A lot of people may ask, what does dyskinesia look like? It's involuntary movements. It can manifest as the body swaying, head bobbing, twitching, fidgeting, or experiencing rapid jerking, or squirming, or rocking. So this is something that someone can ask their provider about if they have questions about dyskinesia. The other therapy that we have is a subcutaneous infusion therapy of apomorphine. This one is a wearable device, 16-hour infusion throughout the waking day. What this one treats is off time. A lot of people ask, what is off time? Off time can look like difficulty starting movements, feeling slow or stuck, shuffling, balance issues, tremor, stiffness, and difficulty while getting out of a chair. So if anyone has any questions about that, of course they can ask their provider. This one is adjunctive therapy. When someone gets to the point where, despite their oral levodopa and adjunctive meds, they're still experiencing that off time, they may want to talk to their doctor about something like subcutaneous infusion therapy.
Awesome. So let's give all of our vendors a and of course, again, a very special shout out to Supernus and Amneal. Thank you so much for your sponsorship. You are the reason we get to do what we do and do what we love. A few thank yous, but remember we've been sitting a long time, so get out those hands. We don't have to clap every time, but I do want you to give some spirit fingers. I want to give a thank you to Mike Humphreys. He's the guy behind the camera right there. Doing our videography and photography for today. Keep them moving, we're not done yet. I want you to give a shout out to my volunteers. And I want you to give a shout out to Miss Jody Cantor. She is in the corner hiding. She's our community coordinator and organized so much of everything that happens today. Oh, you're not done yet. Keep it going. Keep it going. And a last shout out to my amazing panelists, Dr. Lee, Claire, and Lauren. Thank you so much for everything. But more importantly, thank you to you for showing up on a Saturday, for coming and joining us, for getting yourself educated and empowered. So have a wonderful rest of your day. You can put your hands down now. And just give yourself a round of applause.